Yes. So, all I have to say is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
I don't know if you know this, Joe.
Huh?
But I'm pretty sure that they're 24 hours away from being able to make bombs. Not just nuclear bombs, but
all bombs.
Any kind of bomb.
Well, that's okay as long as it's not nukes.
But they're 24 hours away from them being able to actually make a bomb of the most rudimentary type. This cannot
stand.
This cannot stand.
When did the 24 hours start?
24 hours ago.
So already they have a bomb?
No, we're still 24 hours away.
Oh, so it's a rolling 24 hours?
It's a rolling 24 hours.
That rolls on continuously? Forever? So at any given moment, it's 24 hours, regardless of when it happens? Okay.
Breaking, I just got a message from my source, inside source. He says 6 hours. They're 6 hours away from a nuke.
Yeah?
Yeah.
6? No. That makes it pretty tight.
They're just finishing the paint job.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm polishing it, as Colin Powell said.
Polishing their nukes.
Yeah.
Polishing them off, yeah. Yeah.
It does look weapons hot, though.
I don't know. It's hard to know. With Trump, it's hard to know.
With Trump, it's hard.
I think the odds of it going up, of it happening for real is what just happened there this morning in Mar-a-Lago. Some guy was shot invading the Great Leader's compound, the Great Leader's palace in Mar-a-Lago.
Is Trump there at the moment?
He wasn't there, no.
Okay.
And they shot a guy who had a shotgun and a canister or something or other.
Gas can,
yeah. Laughing gas. And so, you know, who knows what's behind that, but of course, you know, if it's obviously wasn't an actual attempt on Trump's life because he wasn't there or anything, but it certainly would for someone like Trump who did have an attempt on his life under very mysterious circumstances.
Bring back memories.
But bring back memories, oh my God. And maybe, it depends what it brings back memories of. If it brings back memories, it would just make you a bit nervous and realise that there are people out to get you. I don't think they're tying this guy to Iran or anything like that, so it's more of, he seems to be American, so it's more along the lines of, you know, if you go with the idea that the official story around Trump's assassination wasn't actually what happened and that it was an attempt by the enemy within type thing, you know, i.e. maybe, you know, deep staters, whatever you want to call them, Jews and the like,
sure.
That if Trump is aware of that, there's a lot of suppositions here, but if Trump is aware of that, then it would bring back a memory of those people are trying to kill me, or those people can kill me, or those people try to kill me, but for the grace of God, I survived. So therefore, it could happen again. It could be seen as a message. It's hard to know within these in this rarefied atmosphere of politics and DC politics and the way all that works, and the CIA having 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you, and that all being par for the course as far as the Washington politician types are concerned. They all then live in a different, slightly, you know, fairly different reality from the rest of us, where we think the CIA and the FBI, for example, are there to protect the homeland and, you know, protect Americans abroad and keep America safe and stuff. But American politicians, including the president, I suppose, are aware that actually at least some elements within the CIA and FBI, etc., are there to keep the president in line. And if he doesn't do what he's told, he might get a metaphorical horse's head on his bed or something, or a dead cat on his doorstep, that kind of thing. And I think, you know, there's enough evidence that politicians are aware of that. Well, I just mentioned, what was his name? Who was it said that 6 ways from Sunday?
Schumer.
Chuck Schumer said this.
Schumer.
You know, he let the cat out of the bag in a certain sense when he said that about Trump in his first term, you know, because Trump had stopped taking the CIA's briefings in the morning and said he better be watch out because the CIA have 6 ways from Sunday getting back at you. What's included in the 6 ways from Sunday? Here's a page of your family tree. Just saying, that kind of thing. or all sorts of different ways.
Russiagate.
Well, that of course, yeah. But is it up to
sicking scandals?
Yeah, but does it? What's included in it? And we know that's included in it. Like, but I'm saying what's included in it is included in it, death threats.
Yeah,
and I think most politicians would be aware of that. So, point being, Trump is probably aware that
a faulty plane.
Yeah, Trump is probably aware of that there are people within the American political establishment who have the means, the opportunity, and the means and the motive to kill him. And he maybe was painfully aware of that, painfully, particularly in his ear, on his right ear, last year. So then on the day, supposedly, when, we've got 6 hours to bomb Iran and Trump's still dithering, some guy walks into Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a gas canister and gets killed by cops.
Yeah.
Just put yourself in Trump's position. What would you be thinking? Since you're an American, Adam, what would you think? You're the closest to Trump we've got around here.
I would say it's a very stupid guy. He's an idiot. Coming on my property.
That's what you get. You fuck around, you find out.
Fuck around. He found out. Found out real quick. These guys are the best. They're the best.
But also, maybe it was a message to me to get with the Iran thing already, or else. Who knows? Just an idea, but it's just interesting timing, basically. You always look at timing in these things. Doesn't always mean something, but sometimes it does, so it's worth looking at. So I've had this built up, will he, won't he, like, massive, biggest, most beautiful, most amazing armada ever sent anywhere in the history of armadas being sent anywhere in all the universe. And it's all to intimidate Iran, or according to Witkoff, it's to intimidate Iran, which and Witkoff apparently is bemused.
This is a overview, apparently, of the extent of the military power lined up around Iran.
Yeah, it's the biggest, most beautiful, most awesome military armada ever.
But it is objectively, so it's not just Trump hyperbolic.
No, of course.
It's up to 50% of U.S. air power. And this guy's a professor. Think of air power on the order of 1991 in the 2003 Iraq War, and growing. And this is Trump, but he also adds, never has the U.S. deployed this much force against a potential enemy and not launched strikes.
Well, he doesn't have much history of that, like.
Of Trump with that option, yeah.
Trump never has the US deployed this much force against a potential enemy and not launched strikes. The US, not Trump.
Yeah,
but that's different because it's Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he likes to bluff and bluster, Never before has, or well, maybe not never before, but maybe it's true that never before has the US launched so many alleged tariff maneuvers on the entire world and then taken them all back again. So we're not talking about, you can't really use Trump as a reference for the US in that sense. You know what I mean? That's kind of that analogy of, like, just because the US has, anytime it has marshaled, probably not that many, but marshaled that kind of military capability against an enemy, that they've always used it. That kind of pattern doesn't necessarily work because of Trump.
Yeah. I think it was a third of deployable force against Venezuela, and we were like, what's going to happen here? And he surprised us, but he did something.
Yeah, but he didn't use it all. That's another example of how you can't really.
That's what I'm wondering, between the annihilation in people's minds about what's going to happen and nothing burger, the nothing ever happens theorist. Somewhere in there,
it's taco. Trump always chickens out.
Yeah, somewhere in there is a Trumpian style, like
the potential for it. Yeah,
4 Dow strikes like we saw last year.
Yeah, yeah. Because like again, just for that, to Again, citing things from Twitter and things. I mean, increasingly, Twitter, yeah. Like, I reduce it I decimate all posts I see on Twitter about this topic in particular, about really any post that is of anything. I decimate them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He wasn't just a random guy, though.
Huh? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay.
Who was it?
Um,
I don't care if, like, the Queen of Sheba says it. Like, if it doesn't.
Robert Papp, professor of political science, University of Chicago.
Even worse. He's worse than a random guy. The best takes I get on Twitter are from random guys, as opposed to people like that.
Open source intel.
Source
US,
intel.
This is separate. US tankers on the move all week.
Yeah, they're super excited. Open source intel.
Yeah,
that's CIA. That's somebody either working for the CIA or who tried to get a job at the CIA and was denied it.
Well, the last time we saw this much passage from the US through Europe was before the 12-day war.
Yeah, and that was a kind of nothing burger. At least in terms of what people expected.
But that's what we thought. Shit, they pulled a brake on it. But here we are back in this situation. So will it be another like pow pow? Okay.
Yeah.
Rein it in until next year. Pow pow. I mean,
right. But that's what I'm saying. Like that's the whole point. The whole point is everybody on Twitter, people who are commenting on this on Twitter are talking it up as if America has amassed this. Trump has amassed this awesome armada, like I said, never before seen, except a few other times, to use it to its full potential. So I'm just questioning that. And I don't care if, like I said, I don't care who says that this is, like, implies, like with that tweet, implies that because this kind of mustering of forces has never before, the US has never before mustered these kind of forces and not used them. He's implying very clearly that this is all going to be used. And I'm saying that's not so clear because of Trump. And you said, well, it's some guy from Harvard. And I said, well, even more reason to doubt him. Yeah, I have no.
Okay.
I don't know why anybody would put any extra weight on the on the opinions of people, especially people within the US and within US academia, without it depends what they're. It's not even. It doesn't even depend on what their perspective is. If they're pro war with Iran, if they're war hawks, if they're neocon types, if they're Zionists, Israeli lovers, because those people, like if say he was like that, maybe he's some independent guy or whatever, just an academic or whatever, and he's just giving his opinion. Well, he can also be wrong. But even if he was a super war hawk and Israel firster, he's that would be all the more reason to question him, because he's going to be getting very excited about the whole thing and talking about it in those terms because he wants it to happen. But on the other side, you can't even trust.
My read of this guy is a pro-peace guy, and he's.
Yeah, well, I was going to say. Again, it doesn't matter, because pretty much all the people on the pro-peace side are saying exactly the same thing. Scott Ritter, Pepe Escobar, Jeffrey Sachs, Colonel McGregor. They're all anti-America, and this shouldn't be happening. This is terrible, wrong, blah, blah. But they're all saying this is going to be the worst thing ever. This is it's clear that they're all looking at this from the perspective of, because all these forces have been mustered, it's all going to be used to its fullest extent, and it's going to be the end of the world. So the pro-peace people are saying that, the pro-war people are saying that, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's not what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that people are a bit excited or a bit excitable, and you can't be sure. For example, Witkoff, just yesterday, I think, or something, kind of explains this here, which makes actually it validates that point. It gives you that opportunity to look at it from that perspective. because in this interview, we'll have a listen, but in this little segment from the interview, he's basically saying that he can't understand why the Iranians haven't backed down, because he's implying in this interview that this mustering of forces was simply to intimidate, not to be used.
Yeah.
So right there, it's from the horse's mouth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have a listen.
I know that we have red lines here from the U.S. How about over with Iran?
The president asked me that this morning, and I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated.
But capitulated.
Why under this sort of pressure, with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do, and yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
Well, there's that.
How come they aren't super terrified at our awesome display of military prowess? You know, we kind of figured that if he's speaking for, he has Trump's ear, obviously, and you know, maybe the closest person to Trump's thinking on the matter. If you take him at face value, there, he's and you assume that he's laying out Trump's perspective on this. It seems that at least initially, Trump's perspective on it was, so let's send 1/3 of our military forces over there and surround Iran and make it look like we're going to explode them, going to blow them all up.
For real this time.
For reals this time, it's super reals, not taco. And then they'll just cave, and then we'll go home, and I'll say we got a great deal. So given that's reasonable evidence that was at least may have been up until now, up until recently at least, part of the main point of all this, then that certainly would put a question mark over whether or not what all these people are saying is going to happen is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
So we don't know is the point.
Yeah.
The point is we don't know. So when everybody on Twitter, like I said, that's what I mean by decimate on Twitter. Decimate, like, literally is, you know, reduce a tenth. A tenth. I take at least 10% off what most people are saying. Sometimes I take 90% off, because just the way it is, and the media, it's all the same. Like, there's no difference between Twitter and the media in that sense. The media is all over it as well. Like, everybody loves a bit of war, you know. It's a bit of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something big's going to happen. Let's all get excited about it. And media's in it for the clicks. Everybody on Twitter's in it for the clicks. You know, you have to just stand back and go, well, you know, think about it, basically, not just take stuff at face value, you know.
So Trump is frustrated. Iran hasn't yet capitulated from the horse's mouth.
Right.
Next day, someone's at Mar-a-Lago, shot dead. Which is Trump more, frustrated or scared?
Yeah.
If that's your hypothetical choice.
Yeah. It's like, I just know that the Mar-a-Lago thing was it's just interesting. The timing is just interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, and of course it's who's it from? I mean, maybe we can't say it openly, but it's from. It's got to be from Israel firsters in America, obviously. You know, and that's who are pushing for. It's a very, very open secret. You know, it's such an open secret that you shouldn't even use the word secret. I mean, at this point, you know, it's like, doesn't everybody know? Anybody's like paying even cursory attention to it? Like, surely you know that Israel is the primary motivating force for bombing Iran. No? Can we say that openly now? Is that all right to say that? I mean, can we look past the Zionists and stuff who tell you you're an anti-Semite for saying that and just go, dude, yeah, okay, you can call me an anti-Semite, but it's obvious that that's the case. Like,
is Mark Levine is he still posting every day?
Yes.
Kill
caps.
Khamenei?
He's doing caps now, yeah.
Oh, all caps now.
All caps, yeah. Over and over again.
So it's even more.
And attacking people for saying anything different. It's he's off the leash. He's a good example of kind of lackeys and the mentality of the lackeys, and like from there you can infer what the actual people are like who actually, you know, are pushing that agenda, you know. Wow, when they infect someone like Mark Levine, when they can wipe him up or wind him up in that way too. Yeah. Pete Hegseth's on roids, maybe, is he? I don't think he did 315. Did you see that?
No, I did. I was impressed. 315 is
fake.
Quite a weight.
What's
fake weights.
315 what?
315 pounds.
315 pound bench press.
143 kilos. He doesn't look like yeah. I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest. Like, I really wouldn't put it past him. I mean, it looks a bit staged to me, but who knows? It's hard to know. It's something we just have to go. Bah. But he's got to be. He can't be much more than maybe 90 kilos or something like that, right? He's maybe 90 kilos, right? He may be tall enough, but he's 90 kilos. If I had to bet my life on it, I'd call fake on it, I'd call they're fake weights. Styrofoam weights. Yeah, let's go. Because it's probably 1.5 times his body weight, and he doesn't really look. I mean, he doesn't look like. And my main problem though with it is that it's presented as 1 rep max, but if you noticed him pushing it,
no, it wasn't a complete and total grind.
He could have done 2.
I don't know about 2.
Why? It was very little in the way of. It was a little bit of a slowdown, and then it was straight up. Like, that doesn't seem to be. He could. It
was grindy at the top.
He could have pushed out 2. I think he's done. I think if he's done that, he's done 2 before. So then making this a big deal that he did 1 is fake. Whatever. Who cares? He's probably snorted a load of cocaine right beforehand, and that helped him. Yeah. So, what else are we looking at here? Yeah. Oh, you talked about Mark Levine. Yeah, all on caps for sure. Oh. There you go.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of text.
Yes, in caps.
That's cool, dude. Whatever. I'm sorry it happened.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm not reading all that, but I'm sorry.
I'm happy.
I'm happy for you.
I'm happy, or I'm sorry it happened. It will never be done or shown. Yeah. Basically, the old Iran's nukes can't have nukes because Iran's going to use them and destroy the world. Same old. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Yep, I heard it before. Dozens and dozens and dozens of times over the past literally 30 years, mostly from Netanyahu. Iran's going to, because everybody knows the reason that people want a nuclear weapon is to use it, when that's clearly not the case. The motivation for acquiring nuclear weapons is to have more power and influence and to be able to protect your sovereignty against aggressors. That's automatically what happens whenever a country does acquire a nuclear weapon. They become more secure in their own defense and have more influence. They're shown more respect. That fat kid over in North Korea, he has a nuke for quite a while now. He never used it. He acquired it so that he would have some level of he'd be insulated to a large extent from American or whoever from attacking North Korea, and that's what's happened. They leave him alone. So pretty much everybody who's ever acquired a nuke since nukes were developed, they've all probably explicitly said at some point or another, but obviously all explicitly used them, with the exception of America, who actually used them one time, but the rest of them countries have used them as a deterrent, basically, as a way to just leave me alone. Yeah, and countries do leave you alone. Otherwise, you're subject to being invaded, attacked, overthrown, regime changed, etc., etc. But uniquely, that doesn't apply to Iran. That's not the reason Iran would want a nuclear weapon. Iran wants a nuclear weapon so that it can immediately use it. Just so you know. So if we're all okay with that, we'll move along. If we're all okay with that line of bullshit, just snort it down there and we'll all just move along.
Does anyone know when the Trump administration changed from we bombed Fordow and Natanz and their Iranian nuclear program is gone forever / set back 30 years to back to 24 hours? Was that announced, or did that just seamlessly happen in the intervening 8 months?
Yeah, you're looking at the details too much. You shouldn't be looking at those kind of details. I think you're missing the point here, really, to be honest. Like, it's about attacking Iran, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you're asking for people to make sense or be consistent and stuff. It's not really going to fly, like, you know what I mean?
The reason why you don't give, like, hard lines and hard statements is so that way you can, like...
But they gave very hard statements. It was so hard that someone leaked that Trump's DIA report told him that, no, you didn't actually really level those two nuclear facilities. And anyway, they moved the nukes or nuke material they had out beforehand.
Possibly
because you tipped them off.
Well, because you signaled it, yeah.
And then he screamed at the NATO summit in Brussels the following week, that's fake news, and threatened to sue CNN.
Because you're
just me who remembers that.
Yeah,
the first I heard of it after that was Netanyahu's 6th visit in, I think, late November or December, when Trump was with him outside the White House saying, yeah, it's, it's back on. Because, and it was new, it was novel, because of Iran's nuke program. I was like, what? Is it? Plus their ballistic missile program.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of, again, it's like with so many other things, you have this bullshit narrative, and it would be nice, but it's not necessary because it's so transparent. It would be nice if they could just tell you the real reason. But the real reason doesn't sound as good and isn't couched in terms of protecting freedom and democracy and fighting evil and that kind of thing. But obviously the real reason, like we said, is that they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon because that would give Iran significant leverage and immunity from attack by Israel. So Israel wants to stop them from getting a nuke for that reason.
But we suspect they have nukes, so that may not be the real reason either.
Well, no, but it is the real reason in a sense.
But it could also be like them talking about, like, I say them, like one of the reasons for the US and Israel wanting Iran to limit its ballistic missile capability is because
they have a nuclear weapon.
They know or suspect that Iran has warheads,
yes,
but maybe not an effective means of delivering
Correct.
it.
And eventually,
so the idea is like, okay.
That's why Israel put on the ballistic missile requirement onto the list. You know what I mean? It wasn't just about its nuclear weapons or nuclear production facilities. Netanyahu specifically attached or tied on the missile program because they probably suspect that Iran does have some kind of a warhead already made, probably quite a long time ago, but needs the ability to deliver it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer you wait, the more likely it's going to be nuclear breakout, where they'll get to the point where they have and then they can go into serial production. They can have a lot of them, and then it's game over. So this is all quite pressing. And
is it? Would it ordinarily? Maybe it would be. Maybe it works for North Korea. Do you think Israel would be like, we're too late, if they found out, or if it was shown somehow that Iran had both the means and the method? Do you think they'd stop? This is Israel.
Well, they would, obviously, because if they realize that that Iran had developed its technology enough to the point that it couldn't prevent it didn't have first strike capability. It couldn't attack Iran without Iran responding potentially and nuking Israel. Then obviously, then you're not that crazy. Like that's, you don't go. I mean, you're not gonna deny them self-preservation instinct. They're not that crazy. That's Twitter stuff. That's Twitter hyperbole. People will say that, but but they want to stop them before they get to that point, and they just want rid of Iran anyway. It's the last to fall in the whole axis of evil business and all that kind of stuff. So they want greater Israel, and greater Israel is obviously greater political Israel, not actual greater Israel physically, because the map of greater Israel, there aren't enough Jews to populate it. So, I mean, again, I don't know, when people talk about greater Israel, it's like, look, greater Israel's real. They have the maps. You can show that they've been planning this all this time, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so talk me through that one. Okay, let's say, Israel has, America's backing and it overthrows all these comments. I mean, it takes in a part of Iran, obviously, greater Israel, part of Egypt, all of Jordan, Syria, part of Turkey, half of Saudi Arabia, all of Iraq. So how does that greater Israel look then? Is that like everybody gets removed and then there's an Israeli government set up somewhere in the center, or they run it from Tel Aviv, but then they rename all these towns in all these different countries, this very large area, to Israeli names, and then they start mass producing babies, Israeli babies, or they bring everybody from New York, all the Jews from New York, and get them to populate it. But then still, it's like you don't really have enough. And is it an Israeli parliament that rules over all of that? Who administrates it?
And similar problem as we've seen up to now with the destruction in Syria, Iraq, and Libya. It's like where do all the people who currently live there?
Yeah, where do they all go?
Where do they go?
Yeah, keep them as slaves, maybe second-class citizens. You need a lot more. You need to increase the size of your military to govern all that. Yeah, and just like someone to talk me through the greater Israel as a physical entity, the way it's seen on maps and stuff. So it's only like all you have to do is ask one question about that, and the whole idea falls apart. Like the whole idea of an actual physical greater Israel falls apart. It's just like nonsense. There literally aren't enough Jews in the world to run that kind of thing. So it's obviously greater Israel, as we've seen, basically in the way that it has developed. And the reason people talk about greater Israel right now is because greater Israel is greater political Israel. It's a political map of quote unquote Israel, by a political map of Israeli influence, really Israeli control, or those countries within the boundaries of greater Israel are all in one way or another forced into a kind of a subservient attitude or position vis-a-vis Israel, which is
not
Syria. You put some
unheard of.
jihadis in Israel, put some jihadis in Syria, and there you go. You control the jihadis that you put in Syria, and therefore that's part of Israel now, more or less. Part of Israel in the sense that it's not a threat to Israel anymore. We have a lot of influence and control over it. They basically do what we want to do.
Like Europe, the West.
Well, more
Congo,
more
Congo Inc., Diamond Inc. Congo's de facto run by one of them. It's not an open secret.
Yeah,
and they're I could see them trying using high tech. They're mad, but they do envisage using their technological means to look at the plans for Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
digitized everything.
That's within Israel, like.
Yeah, it's easier to
more or less these days
be a template.
Yeah. But when it comes to like wondering why, does everybody miss the part about Trump saying that Iran's nuclear program was destroyed? So why are you going to attack Iran now? What's your rationale this time? This is in the same ballpark type thing. It's from a few years ago. Under Biden, Caleb Caleb Mopin asked, what's his face? White House.
John Kirby.
John Kirby, yeah.
Curveball Kirby.
Curveball, yeah. Have a listen.
Has recently come to light an exchange between Jeffrey Leeds and former Secretary of State Colin Powell, in which he acknowledges that Israel has, quote, he says 200 nuclear weapons. And the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty has not been signed by Israel. Under U.S. law, the United States should cut off support to Israel because it's a nuclear power that has not signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, according to Colin Powell, correct?
Shouldn't you ask Colin Powell that? I'm not going to.
Shouldn't you ask Colin?
Israel doesn't have nuclear weapons?
I'm certainly not going to discuss matters of intelligence from the podium. I'm not. I have no comment on that.
Okay. Well, the email says the boys in Tehran know Israel has 200, all we targeted on Tehran, and we have thousands. I mean, that seems to indicate that there's a knowledge of an Israeli nuclear program, which would make U.S. aid to Israel illegal.
I think I've answered your question.
Okay, well, let me ask.
I think I've avoided your question.
Do I have the correct understanding of U.S. law that
I think I've sufficiently avoided your
question. Does not sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty?
Look, we obviously support the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. I'm not a legal expert on all the tenets of it, and I'm certainly not going to speak about the details that you've revealed here in this email traffic. That would be inappropriate for me to discuss one way or the other. I'm not going to do it.
There are sanctions imposed on North Korea in response to their nuclear proliferation. There were sanctions put on Iran in response to allegations of nuclear proliferation. And now we have this email from Colin Powell saying that Israel has 200 nuclear weapons. Why is Israel not facing any consequence for this?
That's a very colorful way of getting back to the same question you just asked me. But I'm going to refer you back to the transcript when you see it this afternoon to what I said before to your question. Saeed?
You're familiar with this email, right?
I'm not.
Oh.
I have not seen it. I can't speak to the email, and frankly, even if I'd seen it, sir, I wouldn't engage in that kind of a discussion from the podium.
Those were fun days. Matt Lee weighing in, sidekick. Caleb Maupin's there because he's got an RT press badge. But of course, they've dealt with that problem since then. You're all banned.
Yeah. Problem there is like the answer that Kirby should have said, given was like, look, you're pulling me up on the inconsistencies in our narrative, and maybe you fail to understand, but like a narrative is just that, it's a narrative, it's not the actual truth. So it's kind of pointless for you to like, I like we give this hypocritical, we take this hypocritical position on Iranian nukes, and it's obviously hypocritical, and we dress it up in this kind of fancy narrative, whatever, and we just kind of avoid the obvious hypocrisy within it, and we expect you all to understand that, but here you are like asking me to actually justify what everybody should know is a hypocritical position on something, and you're calling me a hypocrite. Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
do you not know that this works because like you are here to get the crap that we want to give you. So we want to give you crap. You are here to take the crap and say, thank you, sir, may I have another?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you calling me out on that stuff? I mean,
Like, yeah, we all know it's crap.
It's like,
do you want to keep your press badge? I mean,
it's like, Mr. Kirby, previous administration invaded Iraq on the basis of spreading freedom and democracy, but they actually spread death and terror. Do you see the inconsistency in that? How can you justify? How can you justify? That the Iraq War was a good idea when it actually. And Kirby would be like, well, again, obviously the freedom and democracy thing was a bullshit narrative to get people to go along with it. There's no point in asking me about that because everybody knows that's nonsense, right? And as to the real reasons, I'm obviously not going to spit those out. I'm just going to refer back to the bullshit narrative. And you can ask me about the bullshit narrative and point out how it's bullshit, and I'll just say, I'm not going to answer that question.
I refer you to intelligence.
Yeah, and are we done here? I thought everybody knows it. It's almost like he'd say that. I thought everybody knows this, You all know how this actually works, right? It's such a joke. Yeah. And yeah, somebody I noticed someone someone brought up a good point. How 100,000 protest. They talk about protesters, Iran killing protesters, and it relates most specifically to Gaza and the reports about Gaza and what happened October 7th in Israel, and all the gory details that were given and stuff. And it's interesting how, I mean, they're not going that far with Iran, but it's like in the same ballpark, where Iran's this evil empire and they're going to kill and destroy us all, and they want to eat us, they want to devour us. They're this 7th century death cult that wants to destroy everybody who isn't Iranian, blah, blah, blah. And the allegations that they used in their propaganda against their enemies becomes something that you think, hang on a minute, I've seen that recently before. It's in the Epstein files, those kind of allegations, that kind of demonization and identification of depraved, evil human beings who apparently want to kill everybody and destroy innocence and stuff. I've seen that in the Epstein files, and it's you guys in the West here, but now I see that you're using the same kind of demonization against Iranians who, pretty sure there are no Iranians in the Epstein files.
Yeah, they blasted a lurid report this week about Iran surgically removing the wombs of thousands of female incarcerated as a result of the protests / riots.
Yep. Babies in incubators. Any babies thrown out of incubators yet? How many babies has Iran thrown out of incubators? I don't know. Let's ask our intelligence. Intelligence. Please
We've
wait.
got reports.
We have reports.
We have reports of billions. Billions of Iranian babies.
Billions of incubators.
Billions of incubators.
That are now empty of babies.
Because we've thrown them out of the...
Just willy-nilly tossed them out. Just as an example of how evil we are.
So we even tossed the bathwater.
Oh my God.
Not just the babies.
That's horrible.
But the bathwater as well.
Who would do that? Yep. So that's where we're at. Just have to suffer it, I suppose. And just like look at these people and go, really? Really? Okay. Really? Okay. Heard that one before, but go ahead. They don't care anymore, I think. That's the point. I think they just don't care. They really aren't trying very hard at all. They don't have... I mean, it's kind of natural in a certain sense when your motive for doing something is quite, would be perceived by the population as very negative, then, and you've done it repeatedly, your narrative for doing those things to try and dress it up and make it turn into a positive is should be very obvious to most people, especially when you do it repeatedly. And when people start to go, kind of heard that one before, didn't make sense then, doesn't make sense now. So you go, okay, so you're not buying that one. Well, what about this one? And the next one you come up with is basically just the same, because like there aren't really very many options. You know what I mean, in terms of how you would dress it up. You know what I mean? I mean, it's demonization of your enemies in some way or other. Like, okay, so you heard about incubators and babies before. Okay, what about
incubators with babies in them?
No, yeah.
Did you hear about that one?
Yeah.
I know you heard about the babies in the incubators, but what about the incubators with babies in them?
Yeah, that is it. That was it. That was the original one. No, slightly different. Can you make it slightly different?
Differently. Yeah.
Can you make it slightly different?
Well, he did by phrasing it.
No, but can you make it a little bit more different?
A little bit more different.
Maybe something else other than babies in incubators.
The babies.
Very small children. The very small children.
Can we have something else other than incubators? We did that one. Out of
well, they kind of implied this week that they ripped babies out of women and did a variation. That sounded to me like a variation.
Yeah,
just more extreme.
And then played football with the babies.
Yeah,
but then your only actual anchored reference in the real world is babies in incubators being left to die in Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's basically the old
projective
accuse other people of what you're doing yourself. It's really crass. And which is it just amazes me to see this morass of discussion and in-depth analysis and people arguing back and forth over something that is really very, very simple. Like, I just wonder. But then I realize that everybody's doing it because they're monetized on X and they want people to give me money. So, yeah.
State of the Union speech Tuesday.
Yeah, the State of the Union. My
People are
God, have you seen the State of the Union?
Of it.
People are saying he's got to go now, Trump, or Iran, some kind of war, or he has to wait. But waiting sucks for a variety of reasons.
If he does it because it's officially Ramadan. That
that's
started
one
on the
of them.
19th.
It is now, okay.
Well, depending on who you are, the Saudis started it on the 18th, and then the Iranians started it on the 19th. Regardless, it is now officially in all the places.
You really
Ramadan.
are our imam now. You're a MAGA guy and our go-to.
I'm
Muslim
having fun
scholar.
with this. I've got so many hats.
Mhm.
The only one I'm missing is the really tiny one,
Yeah,
and I don't think I want that one.
No, maybe you need it though. You got to be able to put that one on, because, for example, March 2nd. When will March 2nd be? It's still a week away. It's a week away. That's Purim. But maybe it could fall within that, Purim is the feast, the Jewish feast, a Jewish holiday that commemorates the saving of the Jewish people from annihilation at the hands of the Iranians. I mean, the
Persians. Yeah.
the Persians. So
That's an interesting one.
that would be a good one to have going on at the time. But there to be a slight remake of it, where rather than this Purim commemorating the saving of the Jewish people from annihilation at the hands of the Persians, this Purim could be commemorating
The annihilation of the Persians at the hands of the Israelis.
the booming of Tel Aviv at the hands of just a little inversion of the old story, just to keep it interesting,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna apologize for, if anything comes out of this, hoping for some boom Tel Aviv, because it is what it is. Bring it on.
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
Fuck
So
around,
the point that I was going to make with the whole Ramadan thing is the fact that attacking Iran right now would even more so solidify and unify the people against the Western parties, the Israelis, trying to do anything to depose the government. I think earlier today, there was some not protesters, but like supporters of the Iranian Republic at the university, one of the universities in Tehran, and they were shouting and cheering their slogans and waving their flags, and then some opposition tried to start some stuff. Started some fights, and then the police got in there and settled that down real quick.
Right. So you're saying that an attack on Iran now would
go that same way of being of creating even more solidarity in an already unified country. It seems a bit counterproductive.
But there have been protests. Yeah, you mentioned there were protests just yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, was it? In Iran.
Yeah.
Student protests, whatever. But that, didn't go anywhere, right? So, which isn't surprising, given the context and the time in which it's happening. You'd think the Iranians would clamp down on that pretty quick, because it's very likely, you have to suspect that it's another... another maneuver, But they don't have the option. Part of the problem with this is, again, it's all very. It's just so. It's also up in the air, and it's mainly because if it was any other president other than Trump, you'd be sure that it was going to happen. But the problem with it is that, as other people have said, this is taking a long time. This whole build up and all that kind of stuff. If the whole thing was to be wrapped up without anything happening, and they're all to go home again, it would be a long time before they would be able to muster the enthusiasm or the the money or the political will or whatever to redo it all again. You know what I mean? It's like this. It's kind of like if you're not going to do it now, you're not going to do it at least for the foreseeable future. Again, this is your last chance type thing. And it really comes down to a struggle between, because the only reason there's any potential dithering about it is because of Trump, basically. I mean, it shouldn't be happening at all, obviously, and it's a testimony to the influence of the Israelis and the Israeli firsters in the US that they were able to get it this far, get to the point where they're ready to go weapons hot type thing,
I can think of one counterfactual, but it may be the exception that proves the rule, because in the end, the result was still the same. They were weapons hot to go into Syria in August 2013. Yeah. Back down at the last minute and said, it was due to a vote in Congress and Parliament. But it was because there was just tipped the balance. Shit, there's too much firepower in that country, we think. Supplied by the Russians.
Right.
So that's the calculus going on here, but at a larger scale.
Yeah,
I would think Trump wants whatever it is, he would want it at least in a new equilibrium by summer, because the World Cup's on in the US.
Yeah.
That's not nothing. I know Americans don't think much of soccer ball, but that would be politically. Oof.
Yeah, and there is an element, a similar element there to the Syria in 2013, where they obviously have to factor in the possibility that Russia and China may have been, by all reports, by lots of people who don't necessarily know, but anyway, by all reports, that Russia and China have been supplying military tech of one type or another to Iran. You know what I mean? That's another confounding factor in the whole thing as well, but that the Americans have to deal with, whether or not, if that's been recent, you know what I mean, that kind of supply of maybe radar technology, whatever, or targeting tech for their missiles and all that kind of stuff, GPS satellite tech, that's all stuff that, if it happened fairly recently, so that would potentially have the effect of upending your plans or stalling your plans, like saying, okay, look, we got to stall this before we got to stall everything until we find out what actually was provided to Iran and potentially by Russia and China, and make sure that we're not leaving ourselves exposed in some way.
Do you wonder whether something has to happen here? Because talking up largest armada ever, only to do nothing, means it's a victory, a loss, and a victory for the other side, because it's the optics of American might makes right. That it would no longer, it would de facto, you're saying it's no longer the world we were in. It's basically over.
Well, that's why Trump. I mean, it's consistent with Trump's doctrine, let's say, of talking loudly and carrying a big stick. In that maxim, there's no reference to actually using the stick, right? So Trump seems to subscribe to that, and he would obviously see it as a victory if he could. He would actually see it as a much more effective use of, well, maybe at least for the average person, a much better use of the U.S. military as a threat, rather than actually as a blunt force instrument that he actually used, and all the kind of chaos and stuff he would cause as a result. Trump would, I'd say, it would be consistent with his doctrine and his philosophy and the stuff what he's already done and the way he's talked about things. That he would be, his ideal situation is to use the US military power in a show of force, and through that intimidating someone into agreeing a deal that suits America and is great for America, and then you can walk away and say, okay, boys, let's go home. We served our purpose. I got the best deal ever. America's much more secure now. Iranians are our friends now, and they know what's what. They know what's up, and
Israel toasts it and says l'chaim.
And Israel says, you fucking dirty guys.
This is the elephant in the room. Here's one imagining I've had, thanks to Twitter, but it was an interesting thing to think about. We'll see in a few days. Mm-hmm. Trump, in the 1938 moment of our time, waves a tentative deal with Iran to denuclearize and sever ties with Hezbollah, Houthis, and maybe the PMOs in Iraq, with some guarantees in there to make it happen. And he holds it up at the State of the Union. Voila! Plus, by the way, there was a guy who was, I saw it reported in RT, but he looked not like one of the mullah types, one of the Iran's economists, who claims he's in Oman. And he's saying, yeah, we're talking about big things. Americans returning to invest in oil and gas infrastructure
in Oman,
in Iran. Yeah, they're talking
in Iran. Okay, yeah, for sure.
And I was like, wow, that's definitely up Trump's. The Iranians would know how to please Trump there. So,
but that's what he wants. That's what Trump wants.
He holds it up. That's what he gets. What he wants, and then we see Israel / the deep state goes not so fast.
Yeah, because I mean, there obviously is a way there. There has to be a way. I mean, the thing is, it would have to be. If he was smart about it, he'd have to have done it in cooperation or whatever with Russia and China. But maybe that's not possible because, by definition, if Trump was to, and that's the essence probably of the deal behind the scenes, that it's an economic deal. We want you to, look, you got to please Israel. You got to keep them quiet. Just agree to no more nuclear enrichment. Agree to keeping your missile stocks below 300-kilometer range, whatever. But the upside, that's just the technicality. The upside of this is that you and the USA Iran and the USA makes a really, really good economic deal to develop your oil and gas resources more, and to make Iran into a major exporter of oil and gas, more so
to lift sanctions,
more so than it is. And obviously a part of that would be lifting sanctions and all that kind of stuff, and a boom in prosperity, and everybody wins, and it's great for you, it's great for America, and all that kind of stuff. But behind it all is America gets to turn the screws a little bit on Russia and China,
right?
And China in particular, mostly China. So, but again, and Trump could, in theory, do that, because really Russia and China would have no say if the Iranians would agree to that kind of a deal. And I'm not even saying that Trump would necessarily cut off. Again, we've talked about this before. It's not about cutting off access to energy resources,
but having a say in it,
having that leverage.
Maybe 2 cents per gallon.
That leverage. Well, not even getting money out of it. It's about the leverage that you have. If you have your fingers on the valves, basically, or you have significant influence over the valves of the energy resource that China needs to fuel its economy, you're not turning them off and saying, screw you, China, you're going to starve. You keep them fully open, and China still pays the same price, maybe a bit more, whatever, but it's still enough. It's still cheap enough that it's fine for China. The point is that for the foreseeable future, you have leverage. If anything ever comes up where you want China to do this or that or the other, it's a very significant means of leverage over China in the future that you never have to use, because it's simply a threat. It's almost like nukes. It's like black gold nuke, right? It's kind of like the nukes are there to say, I never use them, but I have them, so let's just get along. We can shut off your oil supply, or we can seriously curtail your oil supply and strangle your economy. I'm never going to do it, but that when we talk about some other things and I ask you to get me to do something for me, implicit in me asking you that is your awareness that if you really pissed me off and tried to kind of play hardball with me, I can just turn the valve off. I want that option.
It's basically that thing they spent 15 years accusing Putin of.
Right.
Which he never once did. But it's a perennial projection onto him of what they in fact have in their mind.
Yeah.
There was news this week that the United States is, quote, according to Reuters, in active negotiation over the sale of Venezuelan oil to India.
Yeah.
Which would draw some of India's market cap from Russia, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also saw another sub-theory. Apparently it's to do with light and heavy crude. Venezuela's is notoriously heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of the reason there was such relatively high transshipment of oil in both directions between Iran and Venezuela, because you're like, they're both rich in oil, why would they need to? It's to do with the chemical composition.
Mm-hmm.
Iran's bulk of its oil is light crude,
Mm-hmm.
and you mix the two together
Mm-hmm.
so it can get in the damn pipelines and flow. So those two together are a potent cocktail.
Yeah, the whole oil thing is quite complicated. It's not as simple as a lot of people think.
As
It's just
mine
like
and
everybody
yours.
has the same oil, just
No.
ship it around. No, but like
Iran's and Venezuela are very chemically sweet.
yeah,
compatible.
America's buying oil all the time as well from other countries.
Mm.
You know, so there's a whole kind of structure of oil purchase, buying and selling amongst countries, and it really doesn't have anything to do with who makes the most. People who don't have oil, because there's several countries have a lot of oil. Right, you've got obviously Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, America, Venezuela. Those 5 countries, but you'd think that they've got more than enough to suit their own needs. They just use their own and then sell the excess. It's way more complicated than that.
Yeah,
actually.
it's way more complex. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. You're right. We shouldn't be saying how it's going to go, what's going to happen. That's what people are doing nonstop. I still think there was an article from you 20 years ago. I still haven't found it though. Maybe it wasn't you, and we had it on SOT and it was someone else's name. But it was 2006, and the title was "Bombs Away, Iran About to Be Attacked." I'm sick of.
Yeah,
it's like you get freaking.
Yeah, no. I'm certain like that was happening at a certain point in time.
I suppose it comes and goes.
Yeah.
And it's currently on, waxes and wanes. But this was always going to happen after June last year. Trump pressed pause.
Yeah.
Trump's Board of Peace had his first meeting this week in DC at the Institute of Peace. Gaudy music, awful characters, Tony Blair, not least. They're talking all sorts of stuff. 9,000 peacekeeping force they want to send to Gaza. What does Israel say about all this? Well, Israel has joined this Board of Peace, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Board of Pieces.
Pieces of that country, pieces of this country. Who said that? Elon Musk, yeah.
Right. Yeah, U.S. General reveals makeup of Gaza peacekeeping force. Indonesia, Morocco, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, and Albania will send troops to serve in the enclave, U.S. Major General Jasper Jeffers has said.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I mean, very little has changed from last November. Been 1,600 ceasefire breaches by Israel. And of course, they talked a big deal about rebuilding Gaza and hundreds of thousands of homes and new cities, and they still on not articulated as who will live in them. I mean, I presume they're implying Palestinians. But maybe it's best left unsaid because Meanwhile, inside Israel, they've convinced themselves that no, it's going to be us, it's ours. Speaking of Israel, it went one step further towards just taking the West Bank last week.
Repeated calls for annexing. Yeah.
Obviously, they would love
talking
to
about
do it
the PA,
formally,
the
but
PA is going to collapse anytime soon. Western media actually reporting that and stuff. The PA is very, Palestinian authorities are very shaky in the West Bank, and we just need to go in and take it over. That's obviously on the cards. Like, again, it's just the fulfillment of a long-held plan by the Israelis. They struck when the time was right, type thing. I mean, it won't go their way, I doubt. Those kind of things rarely ever do, but because it's fundamentally evil. It's denying the rights of people, an increasing number of people, and increasing number of countries, and generally speaking, you don't get away with that. In the way that Israel wants to get away with it. But yeah, and talk about Hezbollah. People again, whether or not there's any truth to it, but Hezbollah rearming and ready to join in on attacking Israel. Israel's been bombing southern Lebanon in the past few weeks and stuff. Not that they've ever really let up, but Hezbollah, has kind of has reformed, and is going to be of course, in the event of an attack on Iran, they'll have a go at Israel. But of course, that was something you would say even if it wasn't true. This is all part of the propaganda. It's the same as Iranian propaganda, and you don't know how much of it's true. But the Iranians producing these AI videos of taking down aircraft carriers and all that kind of stuff, and dire warnings to the Americans about what waits for them if they dare to launch a strike and stuff. Like, just you wait, you just try it, wait and see, and then that's to be expected. That's part of it, and of course the Americans don't need to say very much, but their supporters on social media are saying a lot, but the Americans don't need to say much because they can just basically put it all in place, right? And that's the message, right? Put the armada in place. They don't need to talk too much about the size of armada when it's right off the coast of your country, right? But the Iranians, because their retaliatory potential is, they keep it secret. They need to talk it up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
But then what actually happens when it actually happens is very often very different, and you don't know which way it goes. It could be very different, to the benefit of one side or the other. Again, it's just unknown. Like I said last week, though, if I was an Iranian, like you,
yep,
Iranian American, I would. It doesn't seem too difficult to at least draw one, from one perspective, draw the conclusion that the real problem here is Israel, and that any attack by America, if you draw the conclusion that an attack, if America goes ahead, if Trump goes ahead with his attack on Iran, that it will largely be at the behest of Israel, and that Trump has an Israel problem and America has an Israel problem, then Iran's response to that should be directed at the real source of this conflict, which is Israel. I can't imagine they have to think too long about that, because it seems to be objectively true. So if you get attacked, then your response should be directed at the real source of the attack against you.
Yeah.
And not just out of vengeance necessarily, but in an effort to actually, prevent this from happening again. That you give Israel a big enough of a bloody nose that it will think twice about attempting to
try it again,
strenuously lobby or coerce or whatever the American government into doing its bidding against Iran.
I can't remember who did it, but there was somebody who did like a really brief analysis on like there's Israel, and then there's U.S. bases in Jordan, and so some of what would be striking Iran, part of that would be coming from Jordan, and so the idea was if the only missiles that can strike that far are very expensive and you have a limited stockpile of them, then which one are you going to choose? Are you going to strike the bases in Jordan, or are you going to strike Israel? And the conclusion was you save it for who's the real threat, and then your real problem, which would be striking the Israelis.
Yeah, because Jordan isn't a problem. I mean, they're all to a large extent, and this gets back to talk about Greater Israel and stuff. They're all to a large extent under the influence, or they're intimidated in one way or another by the Israelis. So none of these countries are really a problem when actually their antagonistic response or antagonistic attitude towards you is not really their own. It's actually, they're being encouraged in several different ways to take to whatever extent they have an aggressive attitude towards you. It's because of Israel.
Yeah.
Because they're all part of the Abraham Accords, right? Yeah. I mean, it's very clear. Like, the whole Abraham Accords is basically, that's more or less the same thing as Greater Israel, right? Like I said, Greater Israel is Greater Political Israel.
Because what's the point of the Abraham Accords if there is no Abraham,
right?
So to say.
Yes. You have to call it something else.
Yeah. Remember, though, the places like Jordan only have U.S. military bases because they invited them in for protection against Israel. So Jordan fought and lost in the 1967 war. One of its airmen who was killed in that war, the base is named after him. So he's a hero for fighting Israel. That's now the base, the main base, air base of the United States Air Force, which is used for this standoff, the ultimate standoff of the region, which would be against Iran.
Right.
For Israel.
Right.
So Jordan et al. Didn't start out doing this for Israel. This has become, to their horror, no doubt. And they're still fighting politically, at least. So when Tucker Carlson interviewed the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, in that car crash of an interview this week, in response specifically to Huckabee saying to Tucker, quote, "It would be fine if Israel took it all, like chunks of their neighbors." They triggered a joint statement from all Middle Eastern countries, citing that specific statement by the United States ambassador. Like, basically, you can kiss goodbye to your Abraham Accords. No, we're sticking by two-state solution. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's funny because it looks to all appearances like they're united in being subjugated, and they are de facto. But that's happened gradually, and would they remain so to no matter what happens? It's not that long since they've been in this state. Did they just accept it forever? These are big countries. And that former Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, this week said in plain English, to some audience of bigwigs, no doubt American and Israeli Zionists, Iran, we're dealing with Iran. After that, Turkey is the next Iran.
Yeah. There's a serious amount of chutzpah going on there, but like you could call it chutzpah, but you shouldn't, because that's a Yiddish word and nobody should speak Yiddish. So you should use a different word for that. It is a lot of gall, but it's obviously backed up based on the responses of these countries, which is kind of like, meh, just shut up, say nothing type thing. It's obviously backed up by real influence and real leverage, like, you know what I mean? And they all know it. And again, so what's the nature of that? Well, Israel's got nukes, for one, and it's probably got some kind of blackmail ring in operation. I mean, God, Israel. Yeah, they're obviously like, yeah. That's what happens. We were talking about last night, and it's basically, a victim mentality. It does bad things to people. It's really it's an illness. It's a mental illness, basically, to be identify as a victim, as a perennial victim, and therefore to be due perpetual special rights. And always to be able to have the higher moral ground and to shout other people down, and not, and obviously people don't accept that forever. Like, it's like, well, how long are you going to play the victim for? Like, how long are you going to try and exploit this kind of like Holocaust, Second World War kind of thing, and chosen people? How long are you going to exploit that for? You know what I mean? Can't you get over it? After a while, usually people get over that shit after a while, because it doesn't make for a very nice person, someone who identifies in that way and thinks that everybody, like, is saying, you all attacked me and I'm never going to forgive you for it,
It's tiresome.
And I deserve special treatment forever. It's like, nah, that's not how normal human beings operate.
The answer to the question is apparently in perpetuity until stopped.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah, exactly, of course. Once they get a feel for that,
we're consumed in a black hole.
Yeah, once they get a feel
and
for
you
that,
stop us, or you stop us,
yeah,
one or the other.
Yeah, once they get a feel for the power and influence that that kind of attitude and capability affords them, they're not about to give it up willfully. You know what I mean? It's just it's human nature in a certain sense, because, like I said, that kind of dynamic of somebody identifying as a victim or victim mentality is something that plays out, and probably has played out for in human history many times in many different scenarios. Nothing to do specifically with Jews. It's just that the Jewish people and the Jewish mythology and the Jewish self-identity and is based on that. It's based on the idea that they're all victims. Collectively, they're all victims, and they're all under threat from non-Jews, because, as they're told from cradle to grave and tell each other, those guys just periodically throughout history, just through a pure kind of senseless madness, decide to periodically have a go at
because of
massacring us.
Yeah, because of their animal nature.
Because of their animal nature, but also in our holy book, our God told us that, in fact, the fact that we're chosen people is evidenced by the attacks from other people. So the more you're actually attacked, the more that reinforces the idea that you're chosen, that you're special. You can see it's like I was saying, it's kind of like, it really is pop psychology 101. Like, you can read this kind of stuff in the first page of a self-help psychology book, like. But there it is, writ large across the globe type thing, and we're all having to deal with it, and that's why it's so maddening, because it's complete and utter bullshit. Like, it's gaslighting, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we like, people are being told and being required to accept as fact the claim by Israel that they just killed, and I think the real numbers are probably upwards of about 1 million people, most of them women and children, 70% women and children, so 700,000 women and children, defenseless. Israel killed all them in the process of defending itself. That's like, you may as well tell me that the sky's red, like. The sky's whatever colour, other than blue. Because I'm just going to go, I hear you, but that's obviously not true. So what, you're just going to repeat it over and over again until I say that it's true? You're going to threaten to put me in prison if I don't say it's true? Okay, I'll say it's true, but it's obviously not. Like, I mean, this is something that's self-evidently not true. There's no point in trying to convince people or get people to say that it's true, because that doesn't change the fact that it's self-evidently not true. In the same way, when America invaded Iraq on the basis of freedom and democracy, if you didn't know it beforehand because you were stupid, you certainly very quickly afterwards should have realised that wasn't true. And people who still claim that today, that it was a good thing and we brought freedom and democracy to Iraq, is like, not true. Because the reason that you did it was not based on freedom and democracy. That was the narrative. It's pretty obvious. People feed you a line of bullshit, in order to get what they want.
That was
And
one
you
of
go,
the
okay,
things.
I hear you.
Here we are.
You did that because of that thing, okay.
Here we are 23 years later, and Tony Blair is on the board of peace for Gaza.
Yeah.
To oversee the administering of $10 billion worth, they say, to rebuild the place for open question.
Power.
But do you remember,
everybody has to have a hobby, right?
But
my hobby is power and global domination.
Yeah. He was loathed soon after that in Britain. How popular was that? Well, he gave up power. He gave it to Gordon Brown.
Mm-hmm.
It was recommended that he step down by Peter Mandelson because the polls are looking, you're going to give power back to the Tories if you don't step down. So he did. And now then he was knighted. Very unpopular move. And now he's front and center with like-minded types. I wonder how he justifies it to himself, because he's obviously not Jewish. I think he's a Catholic convert after the Iraq War.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, Catholic convert. I mean, don't get me started. And Tony Blair.
You have to have a soul to convert.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway, everybody's forgotten about Epstein. That's all over now? Yeah.
Yeah, because of the aliens.
Aliens, that's right. That's
the redacted alien files.
That's the level of discourse. You realize that's the level of discourse where that dominates in the world today. And it's not just in social media. It's like you have a toned down version of it, but it's still
a White House statement.
It's on the mainstream media, BBC and all that kind of stuff. That's still the same level of discourse, just a bit more sanitized or a bit more highbrow. It's basically so the elite paedophile rings in government in the West, stealing children and doing all sorts of evil things. Is that still a thing? Is that still the main news? No, it's the aliens now. Okay. How did we get here? Don't know. Nobody knows.
I thought it was weird how that happened in sequence, because you had Obama making this statement on a podcast, which was really flippant, throw away. Yeah, I think they're real, but there's not like you're going to find them in Area 51. Ha ha ha. And then Trump was told about that by Peter Doocy on Air Force One, going from somewhere to somewhere. And he said, oh, it's very bad. Obama's very naughty. He shouldn't be giving out classified information, which kind of gave it credence. But you're like, what? And then this tweet by the White House: based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life. Has there been any follow-up to that? What does that mean in practice? Are we talking about
that's a distraction
alien files?
That's a distraction from Epstein.
Congressional hearings? Yeah.
Stop talking about I told you to stop talking about the Epstein files.
Here's aliens.
Here's the alien files.
Here's them aliens.
How about them aliens? Here's them aliens.
The memes have been pretty good.
Huh?
The memes have been pretty good.
Yep.
Like the cow getting abducted, and then where the spacecraft would be that's doing the abducting, it's just the black.
Yeah, it's
black square.
It's redacted.
It's redacted.
That was a good one.
There
have been a couple of high-profile arrests this week. Former Prime Minister of Norway been arrested for his maybe just interviewed. Like Andrew, was that the first time Andrew was actually arrested?
I think so.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but again,
Um,
that's I don't know where that goes. That's
This came after Gordon Brown called for his arrest in a long article about this in the New Statesman, in a lefty publication. So that had blessing from on high. But obviously, it did for it to happen. He said the police should interview Andrew on February 11th, and then 3 days ago, Andrew was arrested. And that photo of him in the car. What is it with the telescopic lens and the British paparazzi?
Yeah.
And of course, the other high profile, he was deposed. Les Wexner was deposed at his home in Ohio.
Yeah.
By
That was
by
interesting.
members of the House Judicial Commission.
Yeah.
We've all seen the clip. I don't know if you want to play it, where his lawyer threatens to, quote, kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words. That was the craziest hot mic moment you've ever seen it, I think. Your lawyer threatening to kill you? I mean,
No, but
he's
he
being
said,
facetious to begin with.
he said jokingly, like, I'll kill you if you keep doing that.
As in, he's just
And
saying, shut
and he
up.
laughed, yeah, just saying shut up, which is normal, like, because in that kind of deposition, your lawyer's there to basically tell you to just answer the questions, like, stop waffling on, stop offering up information. That's how you do it. Like, that's pretty standard for a lawyer to say that to a client if the client's going off script, especially if it's an older client like that who just can't help running his mouth type thing.
Yeah. The lawyer in question has past dealings with Epstein.
Mm.
And not just representing him either. And the subject that Wexner was talking about at that time, when he said, shut up.
Rothschild.
No,
Wasn't it just
was,
after he disclosed that Epstein had someone come from the CIA's Rome station
Oh, that's right.
to
Yeah.
manage Wexner's security?
No, not a security.
His house, his household.
Inventory in his house. I kind of picked up on it in the moment as well, but then I thought, well, it depends what this old Wexner guy is actually talking about. He's just, obviously, this is part of him spitballing and just throwing out information. And it's like, look, that's not really relevant to the question I asked you. I don't care who looked after the inventory in your house, But he did reveal that. He said, we hired this woman. He'd been talking about Epstein suggesting that they do an inventory of the assets or valuables in his house, like his silver and all that kind of stuff. And he said, oh, that's a good idea. And then he kind of rambles a bit, but he would just explained, as part of that explanation, he explained that so we hired this woman who was who came from or was working in I think, did he say head of? I don't know. He said basically something like, from the US embassy in Rome. Now, it's not very clear, but you could, if you're being non-conspiratorial, you would assume that this was someone who was working in the US embassy in Rome and was in charge of inventory or something like that, or had some, history of some experience of running the finances or something to do with finances in the US embassy in Rome. But is that down to Epstein? He doesn't say. This is what Wexner guy doesn't say. Is that because Epstein suggested her? In which case, it would be interesting that Epstein knew the names and credentials of people who worked in the US embassy in Rome and could offer those up to Wexner to take care of his inventory needs for his house, for his mansion, whatever. So, yeah, again, it's typical of the Epstein file. It's not a lot to go on, but enough. It's almost emblematic of, not that it was designed that way or that it wasn't part of an Epstein file release. It was obviously just a interview and actually being questioned. But it's interesting that same dynamic played out. The dynamic of the Epstein files played out in that live interview with Wexner, because he drops the fact that we don't know. But you could assume that since Epstein was suggesting he do inventory of his house, Epstein was also the one who suggested to him that there's this woman in the embassy in Rome who works in the US embassy in Rome, and she could do the job, and said, so we hired her and she came over and she did a great job and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And you could go with that, hang on a minute, that means Epstein knew the names of one or maybe all of the US embassy staff in Rome. How would he get that kind of information unless he was hooked in with the CIA via the Mossad? Oh my God, it's right there, busted wide open, done. You see, I'm fucking 5 miles down the road, and
everyone's with me,
and everybody's with me. No, well, a lot of people are with you. Half of Twitter's with you. Yeah, and it's like, okay, let's hang on a minute. Like, That's not to say that's not a plausible theory, but the problem is you don't have any information, any evidence, hard evidence for it. Like, and that's what's annoying about it. You would, like, any rational person would just look at this whole Epstein business and go, you know what? Wake me up whenever there's hard evidence, because I'm done with this speculation. I'm done with just like making stories out of little tidbits of information and intriguing comments and word usages and relationships between this person, that person, and stuff. You can build any theory you want in a certain sense about the whole thing, and people are doing it. They're saying there are people doing exactly the opposite. Doing exactly the opposite of each other. A lot of people are just like running with it and putting all the pieces together and building this picture of this nefarious elite paedophile network running, and they're all in on it. And then there's other people who are just looking at it and going, look, see that conclusion you just drew? There's literally no evidence for any of it. So you can say it, but like if you're hoping for a day in court, like, I mean, in theory, if I make the claim that there's a bunch of elite paedophiles engaged in high crimes and devious and perverse crimes against children, I'm not going to be satisfied with just believing that. I want to see, because who would do that to themselves? Like, and then I want to see those people prosecuted, and that's to stop for that to stop happening, right? But you don't get that because there's no evidence. There's nothing nothing that has been released in the Epstein files is sufficient to prosecute anybody for anything.
Yeah, but the theory goes that the evidence was all killed.
Well, yeah, but that's a filling in a big blank. I mean, you can, based on that idea that the absence of evidence is evidence in itself.
I know.
You can literally prosecute anybody for anything. I didn't see you doing a crime the other day, therefore you're going to jail. I suspect that you might have been at the scene of that crime. I have no evidence that you were at the scene of the crime, but the fact that I have no evidence that you were at the scene of the crime suggests that someone removed the evidence that you were at the scene of the crime, which confirms to me that you were at the crime, because why else would you have it removed if you weren't guilty of it, and therefore you're going to jail? That's why people are taking exception to it, because like literally you can't, there would only be any kind of resolution or prosecution from this following due process. And there is no evidence to go through a due process case. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying it hasn't been released. The evidence has not been made available that you could use to prosecute anybody in the proper, formal, legal way. Which is why so many people all understand that, and so many people are saying, get the guillotines out. Fuck due process. Identify people who are most likely to be involved in this, pull them out and chop their heads off.
And just to be clear for the algorithm, Joe said they're D-U-E.
Due process.
Yes, not due process. Due process. So, yeah. Spitballing.
Yeah. Wexner said himself that why Epstein? Why'd you hire him? Oh, the Rothschild recommended him wholeheartedly. So, I mean, if at the very least, one step away from the details of the evidence of the actual array of crimes or criminal suspicions, the core of the conspiracy, the meta conspiracy, I think it's fair to say, is that the Rothschild central banking system over the last 800 years, has been, it's the meat and bones, the bones of it.
Yep.
It's running through this like a spinal column.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, ultimately, it's circumstantial evidence only, and you're going to have to, if you're that kind of person, you're going to put it together in a way that makes most sense, hopefully, that is most, at least, internally consistent and can at least make a plausible, coherent argument with the evidence that is available to you, and then and you're just going to draw your own conclusions in that. You'll have your day of court in your own head. You'll be judge, jury, and executioner in your own head, and that's it. That's all you're getting. It's in your own personal court that you judge, that you look at the evidence, and you pass sentence, and and you judge these people, and that's what everybody's doing. It seems to be the case because I don't think that's ever going to be any different. That's always going to be the case, no matter what else comes out or whatever. It's all going to be very, very, far short of anything that would lead to any actual prosecutions and a stop to any of this. So
it's enough. There's enough other instances of things like this, vis-a-vis the Franklin scandal, etc., to say, yes, this is going on. It's going on way more often than we think, and it's way worse than we think. However, they're not stupid. They don't leave a trail that you can find, that you can follow, that you can have it appear in court. And they're so powerful that even if it did get even close, it's not going to happen because people are going to die and it's going to get stopped.
Yeah. It's very unsatisfactory.
It sucks.
It sucks big time. So,
what about them tariffs?
What about them?
They're illegal. We have
shite.
Illegal immigrants and we have illegal
Day,
tariffs.
April 2nd. Supreme Court ruling, pay them back.
Well, not according to Trump, though.
At least half of it, I think.
Apparently, that wasn't said. At least as of yesterday, that wasn't actually said. The Supreme Court didn't actually say that it had to be paid back. There's all these claims from different people.
There's going to be suits now.
But whether or not he is required, the Supreme Court didn't rule that the monies accrued from tariffs have to be paid back to people who are making claims on it, because that ultimately came from some of those people who have been paying higher tax because the tariffs, increased taxes, were actually passed on to
probably
American consumers.
To lower courts that if the tariffs are illegal, then your claim will win. If you
don't know, that's what a reporter asked Trump, and Trump said, "I don't know." You'd think they would have said that, but they didn't say that in the ruling. They didn't actually specify whether or not anything had to be paid back, and he said we're going to end up in 5 years of legal cases. But he said there's other means by which other powers he has to impose the same kind of tariff. So it's no biggie. It's all good. In fact, it forces him to
sounded pretty
use
disgusted.
Yeah, because it was the easy way or something, a more reasonable way, or whatever. But he says that he's going to. There's a different way that he could have imposed the same kind of tariffs. I don't know exactly what he's talking about, and that that's what he should have done in the first place. But he chose to go the route that he has gone. But now he's going to go.
Who recommended that he go the first route? Howard Lutnick,
right,
wrote the executive order.
Yeah,
his Commerce Secretary.
Yeah,
it was by his side when he announced it on Liberation Day. He's by his side when he gets the bad news. Howard Lutnick, you can't. People are going too far with this now. I think the idea that he's Trump's handler, but between then and now, obviously he's all over the Epstein files. This is the guy who categorically denied anything to do with Epstein. If there's one person who's lied through his teeth the most, and still, has a position in government, 20 years ago, this person would be just the exposure. They'd fall on their sword and resign. But his company, which he kind of inherited, Cantor Fitzgerald, stands to gain from bets the company accepted against Trump's tariff regime announced last April 2nd, succeeding and being struck down by the Supreme Court. The guy's on TV news a few days just before the ruling saying, no, it's going to be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine. And then it isn't fine. It's ruled against. Now, maybe it's not that simple. Maybe Cantor Fitzgerald won't be able to pay out or receive good on those contracts by betting against Trump's tariffs. Basically, what they did was they had offerings to companies that had to pay high fees for the tariffs to buy back that debt from them at a lower rate. Anyway, the upshot of it would be that if payouts do have to have paybacks are due to proceedings, that Cantor Fitzgerald will rake in billions from that.
Right.
It looks really fucking corrupt.
Yeah, I think Cantor Fitzgerald was also implicated in the put options on the shorting of American Airlines after 9/11.
Correct. And he led the company then.
Yeah.
And now his sons do. And his shares are held in trust temporarily while he's in government.
Right.
This guy is Epstein level corruption, huh? He's right up there. And you've seen the stuff that's going around. I didn't know it or forgot it. That he's the boss of Cantor Fitzgerald, and they lost hundreds of employees because their offices were at the top of one World Trade Center on 9/11. By chance that day he didn't go because his wife insisted he go and take his child to school.
Yeah.
By chance.
Or so he says.
And the put options are a couple of days before. And this has been going around on X for a few days now, maybe a week. And Trump himself repeated the story in Lutnick's presence in the Oval Office this week. But of course, not trying to expose him or accuse him or suggest anything by it, but just, what an amazing story. How, we could have lost him in 9/11. Is he cute, or is Trump really that stupid, or is he super, super cute and he knows better?
I don't know.
We'll see, but
there's no way to know all that stuff. It's it's very difficult. That's why people dismiss conspiracy theories all the time, kind of thing, because and they go with coincidence theories. And it's hard,
The coincidences stack up. With him.
Yeah, for sure. There's got to be. I mean, but it's all a closely guarded secret, right? They keep it secret for a reason, and we probably can't. I would say that everybody who's making these claims or drawing conclusions based on the Epstein files and all that kind of stuff about this, that, and the other, they're all right in a general way, in the sense that they're all saying that there's extreme corruption going on in the halls of power, and that's been the case for a very long time. I think the problem is that the details of it are probably in some cases quite different from the way people perceive them,
sure,
and what it is. But it doesn't change the fact that it's very corrupt, and it's that stuff. It's the real stuff that would be shocking to people, and that will not be, or it'd be shocking to people because if it was revealed as true, But it's the real corruption and the real details of it that nobody has any access to, and therefore we're left to fill in the blanks ourselves. And when people do that, they're obviously going to jump too far in one direction and maybe not far enough in another direction, or vice versa, whatever, and that's just what we have to deal with. But I think it's overall it's positive. It's a positive thing for people to be of the general opinion that there is generalized extreme corruption and malfeasance going on in the halls of power. And they all know about it, but they've all normalized it a very long time ago and understood that that's just the way things work. And depending on the person, they either keep their nose cleaner or not so clean. But it would be nice to have real disclosure about something, but I don't think we get that around these parts. We don't like truth around these parts. We don't like full disclosure around these parts. We like limited hangouts and shit like that.
Limited hangouts and lemonade.
Limited bullshit.
Grape soda.
Innuendo and false leads and red herrings and shit like that. That's what we prefer. Making shit up.
Yeah.
Just because
I got another conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Want to hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this plays up. Might be behind a paywall. Los Angeles Times, February 19th, 3 days ago. Caltech astrophysicist fatally shot on porch of his rural Southern California home. Middle of nowhere in the desert, north of Los Angeles, where he lived. Carl Guillmer, was shot dead by the suspect Freddie Snyder, who appeared to be on a spree of some kind involving a carjacking and burglary, maybe of Grillmare's home. This was an accomplished scientist. Discovered water on an exoplanet. That's a planet outside our solar system. Has hundreds of papers to his name, patents. Caltech is obviously a prestigious institution. Like designed telescopes, next level stuff. Says in the article, Grillmare had the privilege of naming several galactic streams that he discovered. Final sentence in that one: at the time of his death, Grillmare was focused on studying comets and asteroids that could pose a hazard to Earth. So, last month, over on the other side of the US, near Brown University, somewhere in the Northeast, I forget what town he lived in, another top astrophysicist was killed. Shot dead on the porch of his home. He was not American. He was there on visa or whatever, but he's considered also, he was much younger, maybe not as accomplished, but it was cutting edge research on plasma physics, the sun, with an interest in binary star systems. That or he thought, he's on the record saying it because there's podcast clips of him saying it. His name was Nuno Loureiro, Portuguese. And he was talking about the correlation of the onset of ice ages with magnetic pole shifts, stuff like that. So definitely fringe interest, but mainstream scientists and, top people in their field. That's 2 of them murdered in the space of a month in rando shootings. Again, it would be like looking through a glass darkly to try to explain what a potential connecting motive is. You can't, by definition, because they were both killed by random people. But the coincidence in time and similar profiles is I know it's just
stands
two,
out, yeah.
But I wonder if you can add a third to that, because another top astrophysicist 3 years ago died under strange circumstances. In Chile. British astrophysicist called Tom Marsh. Literally disappeared, searched all around the
summit of the mountain,
observatory in the desert, Atacama Desert. Never found him. Searched the same area again, found him. Topless, dead. Never explained, never. In fact, it's yet to happen. I believe it's only in March this year that his local coroner in Warwick, in England, is actually going to conduct a coroner's inquest, because they never got an explanation from Chile about what happened to him 4 years ago now.
Yeah. So the obviously the conspiracy theory is that some of these people, the Epstein regime, are also keeping tabs on people who may
cutting edge space research,
scientists who may get too close to the truth about asteroids or comets going to destroy the Earth, or potential increase in the risk of that happening, or twin sun, basically cosmology stuff that might have an attract
things that might have paradigm shifting
effects on the Earth,
on how we perceive. So plasma physics would basically open up to an electric universe.
Yeah, which
it
is
wouldn't
to do with
completely
and all that kind of stuff.
upend our current understanding, but it would marry gravity and accretion theory of planets and their formations with an electrical interconnected. It would be potentially paradigm shifting. So there's that.
No paradigm shifts.
I don't know how far it go as to what the motive. Oh God, good luck picking the exact one out. But there were overlapping connections in their research interests. But it's now a third pattern I've had. About 6-7 years ago, in 2018, I think it was, no less than 4, 2 of them British, I think, climate scientists died in strange circumstances. One was knocked over. It was strange, at least because 2 or 3 were actually working together. 3 of the 4 were specifically working on the dangers of a cold water breach from the Arctic and or down one side of Greenland, causing a catastrophic knock-on effect to the Gulf Stream, bringing and thus onset of potential ice age conditions in the northern hemisphere. 3 or 4 of them knew each other and or were in the same research, and it all happened close in time. One's knocked over, one drops out from a heart attack, one's actually murdered, one's killed by a bus, tragically. Anyway, there were a set of 4, and they were close in time. I was like, what the fuck? And then the more well-known set from another 10 years before that is the lists of microbiologists that people were making, dying under strange circumstances. Microbiology became a big topic, of course, with COVID. Climate science is currently a hot topic, but it's going to get hotter, no pun intended. And space, to be seen, but space weather, space implications.
Yeah.
I really, at the very least, it galls me, this shit. Whatever, whoever, assuming there is connections, it's like you're taking people who are really good at it. They're some of the fewest people who are very good at this stuff, and you're killing them.
Yep.
It strikes me as extremely unfair. Just that should be outside the rules.
Yeah,
I don't see that. That sounds like a free will breach to me. I mean, this guy like lived apart. He wanted his own. He worked mostly from home. He had his own telescope set up. Like, you go out of your way to kill him. Or the guy abducted, I don't know what the fuck it was, disappeared and returned in the middle of the desert in Chile. Like fuck off. You know, that's no. What did you think? What do you think is going to happen? These nerds are going to cause a paradigm shift? No, there's going to be no interest in what they do, except from a few of us. But apparently, that little interest.
Well, if it caught on, it
causes urgency to terminate.
Yeah, but if their information, if what they found was potentially paradigm shifting, then it would get
could
the news.
Generate headlines.
It would be in the headlines, and then it could change the perspective of most people on the planet. You know, collectively. You know, the collective kind of consciousness of, you know, just in terms of how people see themselves and the point of their lives, and the meaning of their lives, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be. But then, how do you make that determination? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I suppose you just kind of like, just in case. Whatever. Anyway.
Paranoid.
Yeah.
Ultra paranoid. In sports news, congratulations to Norway on another astounding Winter Olympics result. Top of the table. Won most of the medals by 10. Beat the US by 10 medals. Fantastic result there in Norway. Despite having 50% of its athletes medically diagnosed with asthma. That is remarkable. It's like Paralympians, you know, disabled people won against. That's awesome. So well done, Norway. That's fantastic.
Epidemic of asthma.
You fucking cheating bastards. I should add, actually, for clarity, that according to a Swedish documentary, it's 70% of Norway's athletes are all clinically diagnosed with asthma. Okay, let's start the race.
Now that I've got my steroids,
unbelievable.
Off to the races.
Just rampant. This is the shit they accused Russia of 10 years ago and banned them from Olympics, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah, you want to talk about state-organized doping? But of course, as the Russians exposed at the time, not that it made a dent on anything, Western athletes get exemptions for medical conditions. If you can get a doctor's note, you get a TUE, a something exemption, which allows you to take all the drugs you want. But if you're Russian, you don't have the privilege because you're not from the gold billion. Some people really, maybe we should don't be too harsh on the Norwegians. Some people really, really wanted to win this Olympics. How far would you be willing to go to win, lads? Would you be willing to go this far? BBC Sport, how penis injections became a Winter Olympic talking point.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, ski jumpers were injecting themselves with hyaluronic acid straight into the veins of the old Johnson to increase it temporarily by 3 to 4 centimeters in length, thus having more surface area as they did their ski jump and glided through the air for a little bit fraction of millimeters longer. I'm not joking. That's what they say.
I'm sorry, what? Are you sure they didn't do this for other reasons, and this isn't just like the thing that they're like the narrative that they're running with to make it not seem like they're just
hyaluronic. The article says hyaluronic acid, which is not banned in sport, can be used to increase penis circumference by 1 or 2 centimeters. This would increase the surface area of their suits during competition, which, according to the IFIS, International Ski and Snowboard Federation, could increase their flight in the air. And they quote someone from the FIS, every extra centimeter on a suit counts. If your suit has a 5% bigger surface area, you fly further. There you go. That's commitment. I like that. That's dedication. Plus, there are side benefits.
Yeah. How long do the benefits last?
I think they said 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. But apparently it was a claim and it's not really validated in that sense. Like, as in, there's not really any evidence that anybody was actually doing that, and which isn't surprising because it sounds kind of ridiculous.
Sounds very ridiculous.
Maybe one. I think it was maybe like one person did it. Was treated by a doctor, and the doctor, revealed that that's what he was doing, and then it became a thing. Like, oh my god, is this a thing? Is this a new doping thing? No. But it was only one guy who came up with it, and I think it was like a single claim, a claim from an anonymous plastic surgeon or something like that, or whatever. So it was one of those things that. I think it was a German newspaper started it off. And,
it was the Bild,
and then it ran, and it sounded a bit sensationalist and but whatever. Just when you read about it, But the doping thing is real, yeah. The inhalers, the asthma inhalers, yeah.
What did happen this Olympics? Sorry, Norway, you're on the hook again. 3 members of Norwegian ski jumping team suspended for enlarging crotch area on uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't modify their bodysuits, though. They modified what they were wearing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, the world likes winners. We don't like losers. Losers suck, so do whatever it takes, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who knows? So we'll see what happens in Iran and all that kind of stuff. Who knows what the plan is? It all comes down to Trump and whether Trump's crazy enough to go along with the crazy Israelis' plan, probably for some kind of balkanization of again, people are putting that out there that, the obvious solution will be, the obvious Israeli plan, deep state or whatever plan Israeli plan will be to balkanize Iran into, multiple different mini, ethno states or whatever, and topple the mullahs and all that kind of stuff. But like, they had the same plan for a bunch of other places and it never worked out. So I wouldn't give much credence to that, because it never works out the way they think. And it's usually just a big mess. And hopefully it won't be that won't be the case in Iran, if anything even happens.
Well, it looks like from the
breaking news
earlier in the show, it's not like happening this second, but there was the report of 5 Kurdish terrorist groups have declared a unified alliance to fight Iran. So these are Kurdish groups inside of Iran in the north. Have decided we're going to work together to fight Iran.
Plus the ISIS, they're bringing the ISIS band back together.
Yeah, well,
Iran's going to make it.
That's suspicious. Like the Americans moving ISIS captives just in the past few weeks from Syria to Iraq.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like you can unleash them then on the Iraqi mobilization units if they decide to try and join in support of Iran. You could give them something else to think about, so they don't attack Israel or American base or something.
Or try to take Baghdad, because Baghdad could fall.
Yeah,
Iran.
Have your jihadis, keep them distracted. Who knows? Could all come to pass. None of it could come to pass.
I would be more willing to give
whatever happens
an incident credence if the Iranians send out a notice to airmen.
Note them.
But they did last week.
They did. Exactly. And that was, I think, part of the reason why it didn't happen is because the Iranians were prepared, unlike last time when they weren't.
Yeah.
So my thinking is
the NOTAM is just in case something happens. Like it's just
it's
just precaution for civilian air traffic and stuff like that. And you would do it out of a caution, if you know what I mean. Like not that it means something is actually going to happen, right?
No, it's just like if it's one of the bigger indicators, like that something really is possibly about to happen. Not that it's going to happen, but like, there's the aircraft carrier coming in and all that stuff, but none of that is like a symbol per se. But if Iran sends out another notice to airmen, then I would be like, okay, maybe there is something going on. Take a quick look at if there is any other indicators that something might be about to pop off. It's just one of the things that I would think you would see before it actually happened.
Yeah.
So if you don't see that,
then
I would not worry.
Yeah, and apparently just today, within the past hour, whatever, another Russian military transport plane landed in Tehran. So the fact that they can still do that means the Russians aren't too worried about it, at least not for today.
There's always tomorrow.
Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. We're past the hour, or the second hour. I sold my vacuum the other day.
Sold it?
Vacuum cleaner, yeah.
Well done.
It was just collecting dust, so...
What do we give that? Do we have a scorecard?
That was a 2 sucks out of 5.
2 sucks out of 5. Not bad.
2 vacuums out of 5.
I was in the bank the other day, and this old man asked me to check his balance for him. So I pushed him over.
That's a 10 out of 10.
You like that one?
I like that one.
There you go. Once we get 10 out of 10, we're done. So we'll leave it there for this week, folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another show on how the war with Iran is going. Probably, right? By all estimations.
Yep.
Maybe not. Who knows?
We'll do a post-war analysis.
Yeah, post-war analysis next week. Yeah, it'll all be done and dusted. We'll be able to do the wrap-up. So until then, have a good week and watch out for American armadas posting up on your borders. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Can't stop the signal now.